Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're zeroing in on something, well, profoundly important but often overlooked in the day-to-day craziness. Our friendships. We're going to explore how actually intentionally reflecting on these connections isn't just nice, it's, powerful for deepening bonds and boosting our well-being.
Absolutely. We all know friendships have their moments, right? Good and bad. But actually taking time to examine those dynamics, to see our own part and really value what each friend brings, that can be, well, quite revealing.
And that naturally leads us to think about tools like the Journal Notebook for Friendship Reflections from Stallion. We know their stuff, the quality, the thoughtful design.
Right.
And this journal, it's positioned not just as paper, but as a structured space for that specific act of reflection.
Exactly. It's about moving from just having friends to actively, engaging with those relationships on a deeper plane.
So our mission today really is to dive into why this kind of deliberate thinking is so good for us.
Yeah, and how specific things, like the features in a Stallion journal, can actually help you do that more effectively.
Because let's face it, life's packed. Adding reflect on friendships to the list might feel like another chore.
It can seem that way.
But we think the payoff is worth exploring.
Okay, so let's unpack it. Why does this genuinely matter? More than just, warm fuzzies.
Well, think about the structure of our lives. Friendships aren't just side activities. They're fundamental. They really shape who we become, our views, our experiences. So reflecting lets us consciously see and appreciate that impact. It's like tracing those invisible threads.
Right. It lets you properly savor the good stuff, the laughs you still remember, the support when things were tough. Those moments you just felt totally understood.
Exactly. But it's not only about the highlights, is it?
No, definitely not.
Because every real connection hits bumps. Misunderstandings, maybe distance creeps in because life changes, different priorities.
Yeah. Reflection gives you that space to navigate those, to look at challenges thoughtfully, maybe move past just reacting emotionally and try to understand what's really going on underneath.
And in this world where we're constantly connected online, but maybe feel more disconnected sometimes, that focus on real world ties feels even more crucial. It's easy for friendships to just sort of drift.
Precisely. Intentional reflection is like mindful engagement for your relationships. It pushes you to actively value and nurture the people who make your life richer.
And this directly links to our emotional health, right?
Yeah.
Resilience, happiness.
Absolutely. Feeling connected, truly supported, that's a cornerstone. Stallion's approach taps right into that.
Okay, so let's bring the journal into it. It's presented as more than just blank pages. It's a sanctuary, almost, for these thoughts.
Yeah, think of it like a curated space just for your friendships. It becomes a place for memories, maybe expressing things creatively, and definitely for gaining self-awareness within those relationships.
And the Stallion journals, we know they focus on design. How do those specific features help with this kind of reflection?
Okay, good question. Let's take the paper itself. The 211 pages of 120 GSM wood-free ivory paper, that's not just fancy talk.
Right.
That thickness means ink doesn't bleed through or show ghosting. So you can use both sides, write freely without getting annoyed or distracted. When you're digging into complex stuff, that smooth writing really helps maintain focus.
Yeah, you don't want the pen catching or seeing yesterday's entry through the page.
Exactly. And the ivory color. It's actually easier on the eyes than stark white, which might encourage you to journal for a bit longer, more thoughtfully.
That makes sense. Little details matter.
What about keeping things organized?
Okay, the built-in table of contents. Seems simple, but it's incredibly useful. Say you want to find your thoughts on a specific friend or maybe an event you reflected on months ago. Instead of flipping endlessly, you use the 2C. You can map out your reflections, find things easily. It gives it structure. That's smart. You can track different friendships or themes like moments of connection or working through it. And the numbered pages tie into that.
Directly. The numbers are your reference points for the table of contents. You can see how things unfolded chronologically or track a theme across different entries over time. It adds that layer of organization to your sometimes messy thoughts.
Okay, and the dashed lined pages. I like that idea. It feels less rigid than solid lines.
It really is a nice balance. The dashes guide your writing. Keep it neat if you want, but they don't restrict you. You can easily sketch something small, do a mind map, jot a note sideways. It supports different ways of processing, not just linear writing.
More flexible.
Yeah. And then there's the back pocket.
Ah, yes, the little pocket.
It sounds small, but it's perfect for tucking away mementos, a photo, a note someone gave you, a ticket stub.
Tangible reminders.
Exactly. They can be powerful prompts. You pull out that movie ticket and boom, you're right back in that moment, feeling those things again. It adds another layer to your written reflection.
And we should probably mention the practical stuff, too. The A5 size is great for portability, easy to carry around.
Definitely. And the fact they offer soft and hard covers in various colors means you can pick one that feels personal, right? Makes it feel more yours.
Okay, so the journal itself can clearly be a great ally, but, friendships face real challenges. Life changes. People move. Priorities shift. How does journaling help when things get rocky?
That's such an important point. Because they do get rocky. Distance, misunderstandings, just drifting apart because life gets busy. These things cause strain.
Yeah, you can feel lost or start doubting the connection sometimes.
Absolutely. And journaling is like a safe zone to unpack that. If you write about a disagreement, for instance, you first get your side out, but the act of writing it down often helps you pause, maybe see it from their angle a bit more clearly.
Like arguing with yourself on paper, but constructively.
Kind of, yeah. It helps externalize the thoughts, gives you a bit of distance. You can often find insights you wouldn't just churning it over in your head.
And those organizational features, like the table of contents you mentioned, could be useful here too.
Hugely useful. If there's a recurring issue in a friendship, you can use the topi to quickly find past entries about it. See the patterns, maybe how you reacted before, how things evolved. It gives you that historical context.
Wow, okay.
And even just finding a little memento in that back pocket from a happier time can, offer some much-needed perspective when you're going through a rough patch.
That makes a lot of sense. Remembering the foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, so Listallian uses that phrase, features tell, stories sell. Let's try and bring these features to life with some maybe everyday examples. Fictitious ones, of course.
Sure, let's do that. Take the numbered pages. Imagine you start a tradition with a friend group, maybe an annual camping trip.
Okay.
You dedicate a section of your journal to reflections after each trip. The numbered pages and the table of contents make it super easy, years later, to look back at trip #1, trip #2, trip #5, see how the friendships evolved, how the tradition changed.
Ooh, I like that. Tracking the evolution of a shared experience. What about the dashed lines?
Okay, picture this. You have a really deep, maybe difficult conversation with a friend. You want to capture not just what was said, but the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
With dashed lines, you can write out the key points, but maybe alongside it, you sketch a little symbol that represents an inside joke that came up, or you draw an arrow showing the flow of the conversation, or just scribble how you felt in the margin. It makes the memory richer than just text.
More visceral, capturing the texture of the moment.
Exactly. And the back pocket, think about keeping, say, a postcard a friend sent you from their travels, tucking it in there next to your entry about missing them or being excited for their return. It links the physical object directly to your thoughts and feelings about that friendship at that time.
These really help visualize it. It reminds me, actually, not exactly the same, but when my cousin moved overseas for a job, it was tough. We were really close. I just started writing in a regular notebook. Wasn't thinking friendship journal, but so much of it ended up being about missing our weekly coffee, the silly texts. And looking back now, I can literally see the shift. The early entries are just sad. But then gradually it shifts to appreciating the memories and focusing on how we could stay connected, figuring out time zones for calls, planning visits. It's all there on the page, that whole emotional journey.
That's a perfect real-world example. It shows how the act of writing helps process those changes and track your own adaptation within the relationship. So for listeners thinking, okay, I'm interested, but where do I even start? What tips can we offer?
Yeah, the blank page can feel a bit daunting.
It really can. So starting with prompts is often a great way in. Gentle questions to get you going.
Like what?
Things like, what qualities do I value most in my friends? Or how have my friendships shaped who I am today? Or even just describe a memory with a friend that still makes me smile.
Takes the pressure off. Just answer the question.
Exactly. And setting aside dedicated time helps. Doesn't have to be hours, maybe 10, 15 minutes, a couple of times a week. Consistency builds the habit.
I'm being honest, right? It's your journal.
Absolutely crucial. Honesty is key. Good feelings, bad feelings, confusion. Get it all down. No performance needed.
And celebrate the good stuff, too. Not just focus on problems.
Definitely. Celebrate milestones, big or small, but also use it to process the challenges. And don't be afraid to get creative. Doodles, quotes, poems, whatever feels right.
Yeah.
And lastly, revisit old entries. Seriously, it's fascinating to see the growth, your own and the relationships.
Those are really helpful, practical steps. Okay, zooming out a bit, what are the bigger positive outcomes? What happens when people actually do this regularly?
Well, a big one is personal growth. You understand yourself better in relation to others. And naturally, it tends to foster stronger relationships because you're more attentional.
More attuned.
Yeah. And actively writing about the joys cultivates gratitude. It helps you really appreciate what you have. Plus, as we said, it gives you tools to navigate challenges with more clarity and maybe more empathy.
And those journal features, like the table of contents, help track that journey.
Right. They help you see the progress, revisit key moments or lessons learned. I actually know someone, let's call her Sarah. She started journaling during a really lonely period after a move.
Okay.
She focused on past friendships, writing about what made them special. She said reflecting on those positive qualities actually motivated her to reach out, rebuild some connections, and be more intentional about forming new ones based on what she now realized she valued most.
Wow, so the reflection directly fueled action. That's powerful.
It really can be.
Okay, finally, let's just underline the connection to mental health and overall well-being. It feels pretty clear. Let's spell it out.
It's fundamental. Strong social connections, feeling like you belong, having support. These are massive protective factors for mental health. They buffer stress, reduce loneliness,
All crucial.
and reflecting on these friendships in a journal provides that safe, private space to process all the emotions involved, the good, the bad, the complicated. It helps make sense of it all.
And maybe even the physical act of journaling can be soothing. Using a nice journal, like the Listallian ones, with that quality feel.
I think so, yes. The sensory details, the thick paper, the smooth cover can make the practice itself feel more mindful and comforting, a little ritual.
So it nurtures your inner world, too.
Exactly. Over time, this practice fosters self-awareness, builds resilience, strengthens your support system. It all contributes to a greater sense of well-being.
So the key takeaway seems clear. Taking the time to intentionally reflect on our friendships is, well, incredibly worthwhile. It deepens the connections themselves and boosts our own personal well-being.
Absolutely. And using a tool like a dedicated journal designed for this purpose, with features like Listallian offers, can really enhance and support that whole process. Makes it easier and maybe more enjoyable, too.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to take away. Think about one of your oldest friendships. What's a memory from the early days, maybe one you haven't thought about in ages? Take a moment, reflect on it. What is looking back at that specific memory revealed to you today about why that bond has lasted? Maybe jot it down, see what comes up. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.